freedom's sake, you have set me free. You've broken the dam that has bound up my heart. I am free. I am free. Now let this river flow to the nations, to the nations. As I pour out all of my praise and adoration, adoration. And I will let this river flow to the nations, to the nations. As I pour out all of my praise, adoration, adoration. And I will let this river flow to the nations, to the nations. As I pour out all of my praise, adoration, adoration. You are jealous for the river in me. Freedom's sake, you have set me free. You've broken the dam that's bound up my heart. I am free. I am free. You are jealous for the river in me. For freedom's sake, you have set me free. You've broken the dam that has bound up my heart. I am free. I am free. You've awakened deep places where your glory resides. Overwhelmed me with your goodness.
Matt, thanks for being willing to share your gift. That's what I love about the culture that you have at Zion. Everybody is already practicing the discipline of believing in one another. You expect to receive from God through the gifts that He has given to your brother, your sister, your leaders. And the point's probably not lost on you if you are at Zion regularly that you're sitting in the river. I was adamant about people being in the river today. Yeah, and I had no idea that's what he had on his mind. But that's it. It comes together. You know, God is pouring into you and over you and washing you and filling you in this process. And but not for you to absorb as a reservoir, right? But to flow through you to others. I tell you what, I don't know what you're seeing and hearing, but every time I think about each of you and reflect on conversations, I'm stunned by what I see with the influence, the people he is going to be placing on your path, the nations. This time we live in with Skype and FaceTime and voice over internet, we've been to 2 countries outside the U.S. to train marriage coaching. We've reached people in 41 countries. Where's he want to take you? Where's he want to take you virtually? And everywhere you go with this, you change the atmosphere. As a loving listener, you change the atmosphere just by the way you engage a simple conversation. Who's had that? Waiters, waitresses, baristas, just all of a sudden you're deep and you're in it, and they're like, what happened to me? What'd you do? Ask you a question that, the Holy Spirit percolated up. I was curious, I heard something, and you're off to the races. Kingdom now, right? It's right there. So, all right. So there's purpose to the diligence of learning the skills and doing the exercises. I just really felt led to, help to create the atmosphere that God wants, and the understanding that He wants. So, why are you doing this? Why is it worth it? Okay. So, session 1 is building authentic relationships, and in coaching we say that a couple of things. Giving unsolicited advice is the number one way to ruin an authentic relationship. And, okay, you have your books in front of you. We know that. And the best way to expedite the development of an authentic relationship is through transparency, level 3 transparency. And so I'm gonna share a story with you. These blanks here are specific, significant, vulnerable, and gift. So listen for this in what I share with you, a true story in our lives. Specific, significant, vulnerable, and a gift. Yeah. This is not in your workbook. There will be places. Yeah, I think it fills in. Okay. No, you make your workbooks useful by taking notes. The handout's not enough. We didn't want to overdo it on paper, but it'll be up. It'll be up on a slide in a moment. So listen for these elements. The gift portion is me sharing transparently with you is a gift to you and a gift to our relationship because it sets the stage for you to have the opportunity to reciprocate. 1999 was a pivotal year in our lives. We transitioned from a church that taught cessationist doctrine and blew up because of it. Always thought there was more and wanted our kids to be excited about their faith and have a chance to stay their faith once they left home and they didn't have to go to church anymore. And so there's a lot to that story. 1999, Jill's mom died 15 years ago this past Wednesday, March 26th. And March can be a tough month for us because a few days later in 1986, well, I'm sorry, I'm backwards. A few years earlier, her brother had been killed at the end of March. So we had a conversation just about some of those losses and memories just the other day. Well, it was a matriarchal family system. We lived on a family farm. And when Betty died, there was a rift in family relationships. So it's Jill and I and our kids who were 11, 9, and 5 at the time, and in-laws, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and the surviving widower, her father. Well, up to that point, the 5 years that we had lived there, up to that point, it was share and share alike. You share the pickup, you share the tractor, you share the barn. You have a barn with a basketball court. And I coached our oldest son Josh, through all sports. So the spring of 1999, after Betty died, and we're having these shifts, and made a shift in work as well. I have some latchkey kids on the area baseball team Josh is a part of, and using a pitching machine that we'd gone halves on. You do a lot of that on the farm. People have lived in these kinds of situations. You go halves on things. And our world really changed that day. Jill comes up and she says, our brother-in-law is protesting your use of that outside of the family. And in fact says, you know, we need to vacate the barn right now because in the settlement of things, we don't have a right to use the barn anymore. And I responded kind of like Peter. I got out the sword of my tongue and, said some unforgivable things, or so I was told. And but Jill said something memorable then too. She said, "Get me out of here." You know, up to that point, as the child of divorce from the suburbs, part of meeting Jill, the Midwest farmer's daughter, sang the Beach Boys, was coming to a family that it was a Thomas Kincaid picture, especially at the holidays. Farmhouse built in the 18-somethings, and it's bright and it's lighted, and Betty's cooking, and it smells good. And, you plant corn and you eat beef, and it's warm and it's nice. What had taken root in our hearts, though, was a subtle kind of idolatry. Family first, family forever, farm forever. And looking back, there's only one thing that lasts, right? And we'd made some deals and compromises, I guess, holding on to our lives to be what we wanted our lives to be. And now this just shatters. See this colorful Thomas Kincaid type of farm picture with lights and smells and Christmas decorations going, to shades of black and gray, and discordant tones of music playing, and get me out of here. Well, I transitioned from working in community mental health to be recruited to direct clinical services in a large foster care agency. Well, this guy's a story in himself. He's a prophetic guy who I was scared to death of, and it's part of the journey into what I later called charismania. So there was that shift in 1999 as well, and we just kind of looked at each other. Bruce Wilkinson had published Prayer Jabez. You familiar with the Prayer Jabez? Bless me indeed, expand my territory, keep me from sin, that would do no harm. And we were silly enough to pray it. Seemed like a good idea at the time. There were times in ensuing years where we rued the day that we dared that. We just basically lifted our hands and said, okay, we've kind of broken this idolatry. These things have faded. And if you have places for us to go, people for us to serve, we're willing. Oh, some of you have prayed that prayer, haven't you? Did it ruin your life? Oh my goodness. Well, it took 5 years, but God moved us off the farm. And there was a lot of growth to occur. It was in the early 2000s that I was exposed to Christian leadership coaching and life coaching and the beginning of calling coaching. And who knows that the desert can be difficult? Who knows the tension of hope? You have a vision of how God's going to use your life and how grand that's going to be and what you may experience en route to that will build your character and your competencies. But the conspiracy was to set us in a constellation of relationships that mentors and coaches and supporters and encouragers to, as you read in the final chapters in leadership coaching, think back to the diagram where the cyclist is going up the hill. And we talked in our classes about the friends around you who encourage you, you can do it, or hold your hand, or put a hand in your back, figuratively, if you're not a cyclist, other tough times where there are helpers around you. And, but for that, we're not here. It got progressively harder. We got to Washington, D.C., so from local leadership to state leadership to national leadership and marriage ministry, that then faded, became a very painful, disillusioning time. Who knows that driven men, when they fail, can get really angry, depressed. The lowest of the low was when our middle daughter had a teen pregnancy, and just to shorten it, I basically was in a suicidal depression. It was done. Everything was done. Everything I'd worked for was done. Ministry wasn't happening. Family wasn't happening. Jill and I were at odds about what was taking place in our family with our daughter. And if you look at the calling journey, you see a season of natural promotion. Okay, if you look at that timeline, and it is often followed, it's often full of hubris. I'm good and I know it, and I deserve this rise to whatever positions I have because I'm good. Into a valley of despair and a valley of dependency, because God will give us every opportunity to be cleansed of self. As I think Scott Willis said recently, if you tuck this nugget away, to have every vestige of self-love and human love removed, that God's love may become the reality of our life. And so the end of that story is, not being able to will myself, think myself out of the hole, and really coming to an end of self and coming to the beginning of God. If you don't revive me, I'm not gonna re-engage. I tried everything for a while. Who knows that driven people think they can pull themselves up by their bootstraps and recover. So, all right, so the end of the story is, and I've shared this with a few of you, a deep respect for everything that God has used Tony Stoltzfus to articulate in these materials. If you've taken a look at our book, Marriage Coaching, we give some acknowledgments in the foreword, and what you haven't seen in this story is him and a few others in those quiet, desperate times saying, I'm not giving up for you. I'm not giving up on you. I believe in you, and I believe in who he is making you to be and the things that he has given you to do. Who is in your life that needs that touch, that needs that belief? Who's around you? Who is he going to bring on your path that you will now increasingly be able to better and better incarnate the love of God through the gift of simple listening and curious asking and support, encouragement, and accountability? That's the real deal. You can be called in like a trauma team, a trauma surgeon, and you've got the skills to, you know what to do when you're on the scene. So, okay, got quiet. Can we have Matt sing again? I need to recover from that, Matt. I need David to sing and strum his guitar and soothe my soul. How do you dare to be that transparent and that open? Again, level 3, I don't care what you think of me. I'm not the story. He's the story, and what he can do is the story. So when you dare to get transparent, you open the door for others to do that. Now, in doing so, you have a decision to make as you go through this training in your triads at your tables. Can you dare to do that? Pray for an atmosphere of grace a lack of judgment, and humility and love as you do this. So think back on the story. Give me a little feedback here. You can just say it out. We don't have to run around with a microphone. Specific. What was specific? Was I specific in what I shared? Okay. There are details. You can see some pictures, right? You can kind of get into the scene on the family farm, crestfallen faces, sadness. Okay. Significant? Is this a significant occurrence in our lives? Or is it, or trivial? You know, is this okay? Vulnerable? Have you seen Brené Brown's research on vulnerability? Brene Brown. Just kind of launched her. She's a believer. People who have the best, enduring, pleasurable, sustainable relationships have made a decision about vulnerability, and they haven't assigned a valence, positive or negative. They've decided it's necessary. If you want quality relationships, it's necessary to be vulnerable. And finally, a gift. It's not for recognition, it's not for your compassion, it's not for your sympathy, it's not for you to give me any solutions. It's a gift to you of transparency, to open the door for you to reciprocate and be that way. So when you coach, if you will lead with, sat down with somebody the other day and said, tell me your life story. And Jill looked at him and goes, he's not kidding, he really wants to know your life story. We just met, what's your life story? I wasn't prepared for that. Well, I like to ask that when I meet people, to just, let's not waste time. Let's go ahead and get to what's real. I'll go first. Would you be interested to hear some of what's happened in our lives that brings us to this point today? Yeah. So now you model it. As a coach trainer, you model what you ask others to do. So your turn now. 5 minutes apiece at your tables, or if you need to adjust chairs in threes. Are y'all settled? Do we have, I look around and I see threes, I think. I see a 4, which can be difficult just for repetitions. So we have a couple of people. John and Wendy Brown have come in too. Let's do some matchmaking. Let's actually get up. Show me your threes. Ryan, Milka, or you have 3? Okay. Who isn't part of a trio, triad, threesome? Melissa. Okay. Need a person down here. You want to come down here, Melissa? This is awkward. This is uncomfortable. This always evoked my fears of being picked last in gym. So it's okay. It'll pass soon. And you'll see at the end of the day, it worked out just like God wanted it to. Okay, so if you need a reminder, it's on the screen about what you're to do in 5-minute blocks. Can we put a rotating 5-minute timer up there so that they can see? Is that possible or not? Because I can keep the time if you prefer. We like the visuals so you can actually look up. Okay. I'm going to keep the time and I'll tell you when to switch. So we'll let this group get settled. If you'd like to begin, if you're seated and ready, decide the order that you're going to go in. And follow these principles in your sharing. Specific, significant, vulnerable, you're giving a gift to your partners at the table. Yeah. There's not really an observer component to this. This is just you sharing. make the switch to your second person to share. Recall you have 5 minutes to share. make the switch so that the third person has an opportunity? Okay, let's wrap up this portion. Take a take a few seconds to tell each other what you appreciated about these folks sharing with you. What did you like about what you just did? What did you like about this exercise? What did you like about? What did you like about sharing? What did you like about listening? Yeah. Got to know them really quickly, saw their heart right away. Yeah. How's that feel to get to know people? And yeah. You know them, but you don't know them, and now you know them much better. Yeah, good. Who else? What did you like about what you just did? We'll run the mic around for more lengthy comments, or I guess they have mics here, right? David's got a mic in his hand. Okay. Yeah. We'd like to do them on mic so it can go on the recording. So if you're willing. What'd you like about what you heard? What'd you like about sharing? Who was uncomfortable and got comfortable? What made you more comfortable? Did you get more comfortable, Diane? Okay. Go ahead, David. What helped you to become more comfortable?
I became more comfortable because I got to hear their stories, and that made me feel like I was safe with my story. And I also liked the thought process of thinking of my own story because it kind of solidified my own thinking.
Good, very good. Couple more. Don't make David go far. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right, Sean. Clear to the other side of the room. Yes,
Hi.
Lindsay.
Well, I was just saying that I think we often think that like it takes forever to get to know someone, so sometimes we don't even put in the time to do it. But really, in 5 minutes, like you just got to know someone on a really deep level, and so it really doesn't take as much time as we might think to really get deep with people. So.
Excellent. Really get deep, expedite deepness. Wendy.
I started to feel more comfortable because of the listening and the non-interrupting and the eye contact. All the different things that they were doing to listen to my story allowed me to process through and really get it out, and just showing their interest, it made me willing to go deeper.
Good. Excellent. All right. One more. Patty? Over here in the middle. David? Then we're going to take a break.
I thought it was a great exercise in getting much more succinct and concise in a life story, because 5 minutes is not much time, but it's probably all you're going to get with somebody if you're going to role model. So it was a great exercise to cut out a whole lot of other stuff that you could share, but probably not totally relevant.
Worth practicing. I actually got up and wrote some stuff out this morning just to orient myself. And you can change it for your audience. You can decide strategically what to share depending on what you know about the person you're talking to and what they might identify with. In a coaching relationship, recommend that you take 10 to 12 minutes to do an abbreviated life story. And it'll sometimes leak into 15. And I experienced the Holy Spirit taking me to creatively tell portions that I don't know until later why exactly I told it, and they confirm it, that they needed to hear it. So give yourself liberty, and then tell them, take more time. I do this rarely. I want you to have more airtime. In coaching, we give the client more airtime. So how about coming back? What do you see the clock saying? Is that 10 till or 8 till? How about 10:03? Could you be back at 10:03? If you don't know, restrooms are through this exit door to the left. Snacks on the back table. See you then.